there's no difference between any of the diets scientifically. Like if you line up all the diets together, like there's no difference in the amount of weight change that happens between any of the diets.
I didn't realize that this was happening until I read into your story. Talk about some of the fucked up things that happen to people who run really slow at the end of the races.
Oh man, where you want to start at?
The Berlin, we can start in Berlin. The race you trained for 152 days for.
Dang, man. I forgot I trained for that long. I forgot I trained for that long. Berlin. So the thing about Berlin is a part of the World Majors or the Abbott World Marathon Majors or something like that. The Abbott Marathon World Majors. Google it. It's one of those things. It's Abbott, it's Marathon Majors, and it's 6 of them. So the 6 are New York City, Boston, Chicago, Tokyo, London, Berlin. Big thing, 30, 40,000 people come to these races a year. And like, they're so competitive to get in that you have to like put your name into this lottery. And then like they select you and it becomes like this big thing on social media day of like I got into the lottery. This year, like I got into Berlin Marathon, like through the lottery. I was like, oh shit, like I've never been to Berlin. Like I'm on cloud nine. I'm going to train for this thing because like I'm going to enjoy this thing. And then like some of my other friends are also going. So it becomes this thing of like, oh, like we're going to travel. Like we're going to go travel. We're going to be buddies. We're going to run this race. We're going to have a good time. So yeah, how many days I trained for this? 152.
Yeah.
So 152 days of like training in the summer. That's the thing people don't tell you. Most race seasons happen in the fall or in the spring, which means either you're running through the dog days of summer or you're running through the wintertime. Berlin happens in October. So I'm running through the summertime. Hot. Like imagine running 18 miles on an 80-degree day. Not fun. So I train for this thing, get to Berlin, like have the best time of my life there. Like I'm having a ball in Berlin. The race come and it's a weird day for me. What I mean weird is that the Airbnb I was at, I ran to the start line and like it was, I don't know, mile away. It's okay. Like I can do this. I ran, like I'm running for this marathon. Run there and like I get to the start line and I'm soaked. Like I'm like it's humid and I am soaked. Anyway, still trying to shake it off. Like all right, like it's gonna be okay. I'm here. I'm gonna drink some water. The gun goes off and we run and then it rains. And then it stopped raining and then it gets breezy. So it gets cold. And like you're going through this whole experience of like, all right, am I going to quit? Like, no, you can't quit. This is Berlin. You done spent all this money. You done came all the way over here. You can't quit. Like you can't give it up. Get to the finish line. So during that time, like, yeah, people are starting to slow down because of the rain, the weather, things of that sort. Like I'm running in like soaked shoes. Every step I'm taking, you hear a squeak. You hear a squeak from like the rubber and the cushion like squeaking as it compressed. So as I'm progressing through it, and I noticed that I'm like, getting a little bit behind, but I'm talking to some of the volunteers like, hey, like y'all gonna let me finish? Like, are we okay? And it's like, no, you're okay. Like, you're good to go. And get to the finish line or like get to the Brandenburg gate. So to get to the finish line, you got to run through this, the Brandenburg gate to get to the finish line. So I'm running and I see a bunch of people there. I'm like, all right, good. Like I'm golden. Like I'm gonna cross this finish line. I'm gonna get this medal. Get to the gate, like get past the gate. And like, there's these other gates that's up. And like, I'm talking to the guy and he's like, no, you have to go this way. And it's like, no, like I'm running the race. Like I have this bib on, like I'm running a race. Like, I need to finish. And he's like, no, no, no. Like, you have to go to the exit. And it's like, no, like, I need to cross the finish line. He's like, no, no, no. So like, we're going back and forth. And then like, nah, there's other people there. It's like, no, like, we need to cross the finish line. We're running a race still. And it's like, the race is over. The race is over. And it's like, the race can't be over. Like, because I'm still here. What do you mean the race is over?
I'm in the race. The race is not over.
Exactly. Like, the race is not over because I'm here.
Right.
I need to cross this finish line. So he would not let us cross this finish line. He had these gates. And like, you go through the exit. And I'm like, all right, you got to go through the exit. And I'm like, all right, well, I need to cross this finish line. And in my head, like, it didn't even click to me like, oh, like, this is over. So I'm like, I need to cross this finish line. So I go through the exit, I run through it. And like, to get back to the finish line was maybe another mile. So about the time I got there, when I was there with a guy arguing, the lights were still on and everything like that. I get back to the finish line after going an extra mile and going around and things of that sort. The lights are off, people packing up shit, all this stuff. And I just broke down, man. I break down because it's like I trained for this long. Like, I made an intentional effort to train for this race, to be like, this is the race that I'm going to conquer. This is the race that I'm going to do. And to like run the whole race in the rain. Like, it rained multiple times, like downpours in the rain. I was prepared, had a poncho. Like, to do all these things and to get there and not be able to cross the finish line, it's like the hardest feeling ever. Like, it hurt me so bad.
And that's the thing. They run out of water sometimes. They run out of cups. They turn the tables over.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, so I want to get there. So somebody hands me a medal, and it's a fucking inline skating medal. It's not even a marathon medal. It's like, good job, buddy. Good job. It hands me an inline skating medal. And I just lose it. Like, what? Like, why? Like, why am I doing any of this? Like, this is dumb. And, you know, this is me going through emotions. And eventually I get, you know, a marathon medal, but I have 2 medals from Berlin because like, just felt just like not looked after and not cared for because I'm a slower runner. And this happens to a lot of people, right? You know, you mentioned before, they flip over tables of water, they pull up the signs. Like, I've had people, even myself, like run a race and get lost on the course because they've taken up the arrows to let you know like where you need to be at, especially when you're at an intersection. So imagine being at a 4-way intersection and like it's only you and maybe somebody else behind you. And you're at this intersection, nobody's there in front of you. There's no volunteers. And you like, where do I go? And it's like, you're just taking a bet. Like, all right, do I keep straight? But what if that intersection you're supposed to make a right or left? And like, you just get off track, right? They've run out of water. They've run out of metals. And I think this is very interesting because this is something that I write about and I wrote about. You know, I wrote an article called "The Open Letter to the Open Letter to Race Directors from the Back of the Pack," and like you can see, like from the responses of like mixed bags of like you have people who's like, yes, like I've been through this, and this is why I don't run races anymore. And then you have other people who like these elitist assholes. That's like, that's on you. Lose weight, get faster. And it's like, but I paid the same amount of money you did. I paid the same amount of money you did. I probably trained longer. Like I trained for 152 days for this thing. Like, and your response to me is to lose weight and get faster. Like, what type of justice and fairness is that? But yeah, man, it's one of the things that I fight for now, to like use my voice and my following to be like, hey, racists, like people, we pay our green money to do the same thing that somebody else does. And the least that we can do, like least y'all can do, is give us the same amount of treatment, or at least make things black and white in order for us to know the rules. Because here's the thing with races, right? Is that it's a lot of gray area, right? Like they may tell you, oh, the race cutoff is 7 hours, right? But 7 hours from what? 7 hours from when the person start? 7 hours from when the last person start? Like 7 hours when, right? And then whatever it is, they don't follow it. Because it's been times where I've been like on pace to the T. You know, a race might be a 7 hour cutoff. I run the race and I finish the race in 6 hours and 45 minutes. But throughout the second half of the race, there's no water. Like I'm asking police officers, hey, officer, which way do I go? Luckily for me, like, you know, I have my phone or I have the actual course map. So I got to literally stop at the intersection, trace my finger around the course and be like, all right, I'm at this intersection. I need to turn right. Like I do all of these things in order to cross the finish line. As a like a giant fuck you to like the people who are, you know, who've forgotten about us, but also for the other people to be like, yo, this is a like this experience doesn't make you less than an athlete, it make you more than an athlete because you have to go through all of these adversities to get to this finish line. You got to train harder, and it's like it's the thing of like being black, right? You got to be twice as good, 3 times as good to get the same effect. And I think that's just one of the things that I'm telling to the people who follow me and the people who, you know, who are also out there to say like, this makes you more of an athlete because you went through all of these things. Like,
well, you went the extra mile also, and you created this community called Slow as Fuck Running to Slow AF Running Club, right? Was that what you were thinking when you created that community? Like these are people who are all having the same experience that I'm having, and I want to let them know that there's nothing wrong with them, and I want to, you know, offer whatever wisdom or training advice I can and hold people accountable.
Absolutely. That as well as, you know, knowing that our power is within numbers. Like my initial goal with this is to gather as many slow runners in this thing as possible to then rewrite the open letter to the back of the pack. I mean, open letter to the race directors and like go to races and be like, hey, like we are the Slow AF Run Club, a community of 100,000 people. And like, these are our demands. And if you don't provide these demands, we will not support you. You know, that was my initial thought with it. And then as people, you know, as people started to come in and, you know, hearing their stories, yeah, it became more about, all right, how do I provide a psychological safety for new individuals and new individuals who want to start running? So running, you know, lower that barrier of running. B, how do I provide a safe space to all the slow runners that's out there? Because, you know, you go on Facebook groups and if they're only thing they're talking about is losing weight and get faster, that's not necessarily a safe space. And the last thing is to provide accountability, to say, hey, if you want to run a race, you know, let's run it together. Or, hey, you want to run a race, maybe you'll be able to find somebody inside this community that's in your local location and y'all can run it together.
Thinking back to little Martinus, do you remember any favorite toys or activities that you just really enjoyed or you were obsessed with as a young person?
I would say like growing up, man, it was the typical, I would say typical black boy dreams from the hood, man. Even though I was a fat, chubby kid, I wanted to be like Mike, you know. So, you know, basketball was the thing that I played throughout my childhood, or you know, just I would say just street ball. And then the other thing was football, but I didn't have the chance to play like organized football until high school.
Yeah, you guys were playing in people's backyards, like 3 or 4 different people's backyards, I read.
Yes, backyards, front yards. We used to play this
Getting
game.
yelled at.
Exactly right. Get off the grass. Like I'll eat it. I think the thing that always got me was y'all are yelling at us to get off the grass, but like y'all can keep an eye on us. Like, isn't that what
Right.
y'all want?
Right. And you grew up next to a crack house, or there was a crack house across the street.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you grew up in the hood.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Was it dangerous? Did you have that sort of kid-like immunity to like recognizing the danger and just thought that was just how everybody lives? Or
Yeah, man. Yes. The thing was I grew up in a house that was working class, right? So my father worked at General Motors. My mother worked for a manufacturer who like made windows for the big three, right? Mm-hmm. So during that time, I thought it just really was normal, right? Like the drug dealer name was Meech. Meech always looked out for me, he had these pit bulls that was like in the backyard. I was scared as hell of them, but like Meech always was like just looked out for me, right? And yes, I had a crack house next door to me, but also had one across the street, and then it was some like down the street as well. It was just a lot going on in that neighborhood growing up, right? And yes, it was normal, but or normalized. But I think one of the things that also happened was, how people like romanticize like back in the day, like, oh, where the hood cats know that you ain't supposed to be here, and they be like, gone, young buck, like,
right,
go in school and things of that sort. And I would say like that's what I experienced.
So they were looking out for you then back when you were a kid.
Yeah. They looked out for me, man. They came and watch us play football at the high school, and just made sure that we were, I won't say protected, but like that we was looked after. Because growing up, when my mother and father broke up, I remember getting a house key when I was in the 4th grade. And, that whole conversation of like, all right, well, you got to be the man of the house now. And like, here's the house key. Don't let nobody in. And being that kid and be like, well, I'm going outside, even though ain't nobody here to watch me. But the drug dealers was there to be like, now you ain't supposed to be outside this house.
Wow.
Like, don't make me tell your mama, act right. Don't get in any trouble.
I'm getting chills just hearing how they were looking after you like that. What was the conversation like in the house? You said your whole family worked for the big three. So were there any philosophies or life like ideologies that you remember them echoing to you when you were growing up? Like, you got to work hard, or, stay out of trouble, or the white man, this or that. Like, what were they talking about inside of the house?
First things first, go to school, get a good job. Like that was the main thing, right? When there was like, if you get a 4-year degree, like you can be like a director here at GM, right? Like, those were the dreams.
That was the highest aspiration, was to be a manager at GM.
Yeah, like you can make about $30-$40 an hour. You get you a little 4-year degree and come on back and work at GM. So it was that, right? And then when it was just me and my mom, it was, a whole different conversation of like, we don't have any money, right? Like we're broke, and we need to figure out like ways to make this work.
Well, before we get to that, I do want to talk about that moment in 1st grade, because you've been a big person for most of even your younger years. And so you had that moment where your teacher called everyone up to the front of the class and you confessed your love for one of your classmates. Can you share that story?
Oh man, dang, you really did research me, huh?
Yes, I really researched you.
Yeah, like in school, you know, and I don't know why we did this, but like in school, you know, one of the things that you had to do was like a report in the first grade was like write about something that like that you cared for. And like while people were going up there with their little piece of paper and being like, you know, I care for my cat, or I care for my dog, or like my mom because she loves me. You know, there was this pretty girl. You know, I was a lover man from the start. Like I was always a lover. And I remember going up there and like the most proudest and boldest, like, oh yeah, like this is gonna be my shot. And being like, you know,
Hey,
like
look,
I really like,
fortune favors the bold, right?
yeah, exactly. And you know, I remember going up there just really just proud and like head up high and like I'm going to claim what's mine type of thing. Like this is me. And I get
Right.
up there and you know, I proclaim my love to this girl in front of everybody in school, like not in school, but in my class. And you know, I say this like I care for, you know, redacted. And I remember her being like, ew, you can't like me. Your titty's bigger than mine. And like in that instant, the classroom just erupted with laughter and was like pointing and being like, titty boy, titty boy. And it was like unruly. It was so unruly that like other teachers came into the classroom to see what was going on. Cause like I said, we in the hood. So the kids in the hoods, especially the boys, like it's a time to limit test and assert their power. So when I told her that like I liked her and she said what she said, it was you would have thought that it was like, I don't know, World War II going on in this thing. Cause like people just lost their mind.
And you became Martinus the Titty Boy after that.
Yeah, I did.
That was your nickname.
Yeah.
And you fought a lot.
Yeah. I fought a lot, you know, because the thing was like getting in that nickname, people assumed that you were soft.
Right.
And like people will try to like disrespect you. Like from that day on, like that was the day that I figured out that my size was not normal, right? I figured out that like me having boy titties or boy breasts at that time was like was a problem. And then it felt like everybody else knew at that point, but like this was like the elixir or like the catalyst to like put it out there.
So would you wear like 3 shirts and stuff and to try to cover it up? Or what did you do to cope?
Oh man, tape.
You put tape on yourself?
Yes, I remember just putting tape on myself, like just trying to do anything to cover it up, right? And having this, I remember having like this big rash from like the tape, and it was like, this is bad. And so I just stopped, but it was a lot of fights to be had. And you know, because like boys and girls are like, just grab me, like shut up, titty boy. And it's like, oh, for real? Like, oh, this is where we're going today.
Right.
So yeah, it was a lot of fights. It was a lot of being bullied or attempt to be bullied and like picked on. And you know, I wasn't for it.
Did any of your teachers or any of the guidance counselor, anybody like say, hey, Martinus, you know, don't let this get to you. It's not a big deal, or anything like that? Anybody step in and try to counsel you or mentor you through this? Or were they calling you titty boys behind your back?
So in the classroom, you know, of course, you know, my teacher tried to like console me during that situation, right? But throughout the years of my life, no one has ever like tried to console, counsel, not even my family. Like it was just a part of me, and it was like the unspoken thing nobody talked about.
Right. So you had that experience, and then your parents broke up when you were in fourth grade. And then your brother, when you were 10 years old, he took his life.
Mhm.
You walked in and saw the body.
Yeah.
What was that? Were you guys the only ones that were home at that time, or how were you the first one to see the body?
Um. So what happened? So what happened was I got up. And it's a very long story, but I'm gonna try to keep it short.
Okay.
Going to school, I wake up early, phone rings, and it's like my father on the other end of the line. No, actually, it was my mother. My mother on the other end of the line, and she's like, go wake up your dad. And like, I remember being like, well, he just pulled the double. Like, you never wake up Pop like after pulling the double.
Mm-hmm.
So she yelled at me, like, go wake him up. And we get in the car and we go. And we get to the house where my brother was staying at the time. And like everybody was like still outside. Like the police haven't even came to like put up tape or anything. Like, people was just outside. People was crying and things of that sort. And like my parents just kind of got wrapped up into like everything that was going on with the scene. And like I remember just like getting out the car and just walking into the house and just seeing my brother's lifeless body and blood and like everything just in the living room. And then, of course at that point people, tried to come in and like, oh no, you don't need to see this and things of that sort. But like I remember just standing there and just looking at it like dang. It was I, I it was a scene of like at that age, I think I've already seen maybe one other dead body. So, just to see it, like initially, I didn't really have a emotion or a reaction like to it at all, right? And of course, they pull me out. They doing what they have to do, and like me just being a kid. And I think the thing of like just being a kid and just being a fly on the wall of like hearing the stories of like what's going on, right? It was like, did someone kill him? And then it's like, no, his fiance came in and she's like telling a story of like him actually doing that while she was on the phone with him. And, I remember like the conversations of like my father being like, damn, like I don't know how to feel or how to feel to this. Like I wish somebody would have killed him, so at least I can have someone to be angry at. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm curious, what was your mental state like after going through those different events? And also, what did you envision for yourself in life, right? You have these different points of references. You have Meech, the drug dealer, who looks out for you. You have your parents who are pushing you to become a manager at the one of the plants. And you have your brother who, things didn't go well in his life. So what are you thinking about success and or where you think you want to go and what that looks like?
During that time, and I would say
Yeah.
a very long time afterwards, I didn't think. Like I just thought I would be dead or end up being dead just like my brother or brothers, right? Because I've had another brother who also died when I was like 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm. So
So
did you in the way that you were living, were you living in a kind of a short term, like I'm just going to live for now type of approach, or were you weren't even thinking long term as a
Yeah,
younger person?
I didn't even think long term, because I think after that, right, it became like a domino fall, right? So like my brother committed or died by suicide. Somebody else on the block, on my block, gets killed. And then like maybe a couple years later, like Meech, the drug dealer who lived next door to me, like gets killed with me, like in the backyard of my house, like walking towards the front yard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So during that time, it was just a lot of death that I really just thought, like, I'm just gonna go through these motions, and like one of these days is gonna be my time, and I'm not gonna be afraid.
Okay, but then football kind of gave you a different hope, new possibilities.
Sort of, yeah.
Can you talk about that
So yeah,
experience?
I didn't start actually playing football until my junior year of high school, man.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I went there my sophomore year. So let's just back up for a second. So after, dealing with all of these like deaths, right? Like I was before that, like I was like, I don't know, 3.0, 4.0 type of student, like grades pummeled, right? So like, and I went from like excelling to just being a quote unquote average student.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember, and this makes sense once I continue to tell the story, is that I remember when I wanted to play football my sophomore year, and like went through all of the tryouts, right? And like coach, going through the stuff, and it's like, who is this kid? Like, yada yada yada. Boy, you big. How old are you? And things of that sort. And where I'm from, you can like train and practice all the way up until the day you get your football pads. And at the day you get your football pads, like the coaches come with like a list of like names and like GPAs. So, he's calling names and things of that sort. And then you finally get to my name. And the coach is like, Evans. And he embarrassed me. It's like, I think I had like a like a 2.0 or less, a 1.9, like something like low twos, high ones. And he's like, damn well you wouldn't gonna make it.
He said this in front of everybody?
Yeah, in front of everybody. It was like, you pretty much shoot me, like, get the fuck off my field. Like, come back to me when you got a 2.5 or better. And for me, like, of course, it's being embarrassed, and like friends that I knew in high school laughed and things of that sort. But I think something in me during that point was like, I'm gonna have to prove you wrong then. And then like I went through the whole semester of like, all right, I need to get my grades together, like just so I can prove this coach that I can like be on the field and I can be worthy enough to even be on the field. So, I get the GPA that I need the following year, my junior year, and get on the team. And I would say I shined as an offensive lineman. Meaning that, the first year I was there, I went like honorable mention all city in Detroit, which is like a big thing because, your name going in the newspaper and things of that sort. And like, that's where like scouts to get your name and things of that sort. And, going honorable mention all city in Detroit was like a big deal, especially with it being my first year, like playing organized football.
But also the weight thing ended up working out into your advantage as an offensive lineman. In fact, you were too little. They told you to gain more weight, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The as recruiters started to come and, wanted to court me and go through this whole process of, playing collegiate football, you know, I think I was maybe 265, 250 pounds. At that time was like huge. That was my junior year. By my senior year, I got up to like 285, 295. And they still was like, boy, you too small. And I remember where some D1 coaches came, was like you're just too small altogether. Like, we need you to be 330, 340 plus to like come and play like Big Ten football.
How did that land with you after being teased almost your whole young life for being big? Did you have some reservations about that? Or were you thinking, I'm just going to do whatever I have to do to get out of this situation that I'm in?
I was conflicted. Because, yeah, I was using football as a way or as a mechanism to like slim down and, you know, lose weight. And, you know, people be like, well, we need you to get bigger. And the turning point for me, where I was like, oh, I got to do whatever I need to do, is when my mother was like, all right, like, you finna graduate high school. Like, I'm gonna talk to my supervisor and we're gonna get your job here. We're gonna get your job here at this plant.
You're not having it.
We're gonna get you this job at this plant. And like you can start like a couple levels higher than like an entry level, because like I know you're my son, right?
You get the hookup.
Yeah, they give you the hookup. And I'm like, I don't wanna work at this plant. Like, I don't want to do this plant life. And like me having this, I won't say knockout, drag out argument with my mother of like, well, if you want to go to school, you're gonna have to figure it out, because we this is our situation. I ain't got no money saved up for you. Your daddy gone. So you're gonna need to figure it out. And like, that's when it clicked for me. And that's when I was like, okay, well, I need to do whatever these coaches say I need to do, because I need to get the hell up out of Detroit.
So how did you land at Lane College? They recruit you, or how did that work out?
Yeah, they recruited me.
Scholarship, everything?
Yeah, scholarship. I redshirted my first year. And yeah, like I remember coach came, flew us out. We got flued out before it was even a thing. It was me and a couple other students on my football team. Flew us out, did the whole, this is the life as a like collegiate football player. And I was like, oh, this is dope. And I was like, all right, like, where do I sign? Like, I'm ready to sign. So went there, and I hated every single bit of it.
What did you hate about it?
A few things, man. Like, for it to be a Black college, and I'm like, all right, like, when people, especially during that time, like my sister was excited. It's like, oh, you're going to a Black college, you're gonna have that Black college experience, Greek life, Black folk, talented 10th, blah, blah, blah. And then like I ended up at Lane College that had like 1,200 students. Like everybody knew everybody. It was a small school, the dorms was raggedy. Shout out.
They didn't show you that during the recruiting trip.
Absolutely not. Like the food was terrible. Like the food that we like, it was like a complete like bait and switch.
It was a bait and switch, yeah.
And then the other thing was like, me finding out that I had the red shirt, made it like an experience that wasn't enjoyable, because I always had the notion that I was going to be able to like play and like train and do all the other stuff as a freshman there. And then to get there and then be like, no, red shirt. So I hated every single bit of it. It was not fun. And it's
What conference is Lane College in?
you're asking the wrong person.
Like, who are you guys? Are you playing Grambling or, Tennessee State or?
Yeah, we played them, Grambling, Tennessee State, but we also played like some smaller schools, right? And
Right.
because it was a D2 college, so I can't remember everything we played or everybody we played, but yeah, we played other Black colleges and things of that sort. And I
And you
think,
were Oh, go ahead.
and I said, I would say like the thing that like really like angered me is that our home games was at another high school football.
Okay.
So I'm like, we're struggling. Like
Right.
I don't want to beat it down so much, but we had like roaches in the dorm. I'm in the projects and I'm in the projects and like, I just felt like preyed on to be like, oh, like this is going to be your like your ticket out of the hood to a better life, get this education, get this good job. And then like I went from like the hood of Detroit to like the hood of Jackson, Tennessee, where we had like roaches in the dorms and like stuff was falling apart.
Did you, when you were at home though in Detroit, were you pretending like everything was great and you're having this other experience, or were you keeping it 100 with everybody?
For the people that was excited, like my mother and my sister and like family members, yeah, I'm telling them like, oh yeah, this is amazing, yada yada yada. But like some of my cousins, my nephews, and like other family members that was like behind me, like a couple years behind me, that was like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna come to Lane with you. And
You're like, no, don't come to Lane.
Don't come to Lane. Whatever you do, don't come here because I'm trying to get up out of here. Right. And I think for me, the last straw was, the football coach quit. So the new coach came in and, I remember getting the call and him being like, so you coming back this year? And it's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm off a red shirt. Like, I'm ready to do this. And it's like, well, I don't know how you play. And you're going to have to retry out again.
Wow.
So I was like, so what does that mean with my scholarship and like things of that sort? And I remember him being like, well, I don't know you from time. So like, you're going to have to try out again. And I remember just being like, do I really want to go back? It's like, so he's like, I need an answer, Evans. Like, are you coming? And I do just like any other Black man that that has avoidance issues. Yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming. You can count on me. I ain't coming. So like I told him I was coming and I didn't go.
Did you drop out of school altogether or?
Mm-mm. So I transferred. I transferred to Central Michigan University. Mm-hmm. Before that, like I actually applied to a bunch of schools, like Wayne State, just a bunch of Detroit schools, Wayne State, Central Michigan, U of M, things of that sort. And one of my best friends that I grew up with, he went to CMU or Central, and the only reason why he went there because like his cousin that he adored went there and like played Sigma and things of that sort. So he's like that's his life. I want to go to Central. I want to play Sigma just like my cousin, and like life is gonna be good. And I was telling him about my situation, and I would say the beauty of redshirting is that I was on study hall or study table with tutors and things of that sort. So I left there with like 3.7, 3.8 GPA. So when I transferred to Central, like that was one of the schools that gave me like a partial scholarship, a partial academic scholarship.
Nice.
So I went from from a sports scholarship to an academic scholarship. And what's funny,
oh, go ahead.
No, I won't say what's funny is I get there and my homeboy's like, yeah, like, I'm gonna put you with everybody and who you need to be with. By the way, I got kicked out because I'm on academic probation.
Is this where you study exercise physiology?
Yeah. Yeah.
what were you thinking about that? What were you going to do with an exercise physiology degree?
So I really kind of just fell into that degree. So before that, I wanted to do what was it called? Athletic training. So I'm like, all right, I like sports. If I can't be on the field, I'm gonna find another way to be on the field. So athletic training sound like a great thing. So I go there, and one of the things that they don't tell you, or one of the hidden curriculums of like going to a mid-tier state school, is that they're already competing against two other like public Ivies. So they're competing against U of M, they're competing against MSU. So like they're not the flagship university, so they already got a chip on their shoulder. And I get there, and I remember like the counselor being like, like you did pretty well at Lang. Like you had 3.8. Like, you should take like 16 to 18 credits. So I take 16 to 18 credits. And like it was like the hard stuff. Chemistry, biology, anatomy and physiology, like all these things all in one semester. And what really tripped me out was like I had all of these hard sciences courses. And like one of the toughest classes at Central that had the highest failure rate, which was anatomy and physiology. Like they pride themselves on like the amount of people who flunked or like failed out of that class. And going through that whole process, I end up getting on academic probation, almost getting kicked out myself. So like falling into like the footsteps of my friend. But how did I get from athletic training to exercise physiology is that when you get so deep with all the courses that you've taken, it's almost like you better off finishing the degree than to like being like, all right, like I'm just gonna start fresh. So athletic exercise physiology was like the overflow, or like the catch-all for all the quote unquote students who couldn't make the cut for athletic training.
Got it. Because you also described yourself as a walking contradiction, right? You weren't moving very much at this point in your college career. And you had a bit of is it fair to say you had an eating disorder from the football instructions of eat as much as you can. If it's not bolted down, eat it.
Eating disorder, as well as probably some undiagnosed depression, anxiety, all the other things that go along with it. Because I went from Lane where there was like, you are still too light, you need to gain weight and eat everything, to being an athlete, to like being a regular individual, and still, dealing with things that I haven't really addressed. Like, the reason why, like I left Lane, right, to some family members during that time, right? Like, I played it off, like played it down, like, it wasn't my thing, yada, yada, yada. But like telling the truth, like the coach quit, the new coach want me to try out. I really don't like it there. And like, I don't know what else I'm gonna do. So I'm just gonna go to the school where my homeboys is at.
Was Men's Warehouse a part-time job, or was that your full-time gig after college? How did you land there?
Oh man. So graduate Central. My wife, whose girlfriend at the time, was like, hey, we're gonna go to UConn. So she goes to UConn for grad school, University of Connecticut. And then during that time, I was working at a maximum security juvenile facility. And she was like, so are you coming with? Like, this is, I think we was maybe about 3 years into our relationship. And she's like, well, are you coming with? Like, we've been in together for 3 years, but now it's the time, like, if we can like break it off, we can break it off. We can be friends, or like you come with and like we can see where this goes. And I came with. I was like, shit, I'm working at this maximum security juvenile facility. I'm already like, I'm in jail for 8 to 16 hours a day. Like, hell yeah, I'm coming.
Why
So
not? Why didn't you work at one of the plants? I mean, you had the hookup. Why work at the jail?
because
Just from principle, you were going to go there?
I'm not going there. But also, like, yeah, I remember I graduated undergrad 2009. So like that was like the bubbling of like the collapse of the economy.
The economy. Yeah.
So like it was right in the midst of that. So Ford, GM, and Chrysler, I don't know if you remember, like, but they went bankrupt.
That's right. And
So
Barack Obama saved them.
yeah. So a lot of my family and friends that was making 30-ish, 40-ish dollars an hour with just a high school diploma, like their union was like, oh, we got to cut this in half. Or they was given like, what you call it, like the buyouts of like, all right, say you got 10 years left till retirement, we're going to give you $5,000 per year and send you on your way. Right. So it was a lot of things going on. And I was like, I can get this degree. I'm not about to be working like painstaking physical labor for like $16, $17 an hour. I was getting that in undergrad, like just as a TA or like working at an arcade.
Right.
So no, the prison or like the maximum juvenile facility was like the place that gave me the most money at the time, like coming straight out of undergrad. So that's why I worked there.
And why did you choose Men's Warehouse? You're 400 pounds or you're over 3. You don't know how much you weigh at this point because the scale only goes up to 350. Yeah. And that's, you're selling suits. Like, well,
how did I get there? So
yeah,
moved to Connecticut. So have no job. My girl is going to grad school, like she's doing the grad school stuff. Like that's a whole different thing. Like not understanding what that means. Like I'm thinking it's just like regular like undergrad. So we stay in this area where like we're walking distance from like a strip mall, a mall, and things of that sort. So I remember I was there for about 2 months there, and I'm applying, not getting callbacks, like not getting jobs or nothing. And I remember being like, fuck it, like I'm gonna go like boots to ground and like pass out this resume that I done bought this resume paper with my last couple bucks, printed it out, and like I'm gonna go and like shake some people's hands. And the Men's Warehouse is in this center. I think it was called like Buckland Hills, right? So I'm literally like going to each store. There's a Target there. There's a vitamin shop. I think there was like a vacuum cleaner, like sales type of thing, like an Oric. Oric, is that a vacuum clean company? But like there's an Oric there. And then like there's this Men's Warehouse. So I'm literally going to each of the stores. And then I go into Men's Warehouse. So I got my like oversized suit that really don't fit me well that I got from, like, I don't know, a family friend or whatever. And I literally just go in there and I'm like, hey, like I'm Martinus, I'm new here. Like, I'm just trying to like get a job. Here's my resume. And, they was like, well, we really don't have anything. It's like, all right, cool. Like, but if you do, like, please let me know because I'm hungry and I want to work. And I got a call back that day. I was like, hey, the store manager was like, hey, like I heard nothing but good things about you. Like, come in, like let me interview. I interviewed, blew out the interview. And it's like, well, we really don't have any spots available, but we can like work something out. So I started part-time there and went from part-time to a full-time position within a couple months.
Is it commission?
Yeah. Part commission, part salary. So it's like, I don't know, $7, $8 an hour. And then, 10% on everything you sell. That was like for people who started off because what they really didn't want is like, if you go straight commission, that you don't sell anything and at least, you don't have no check. So they usually start you off around there, like $8 an hour, 10% commission. And then eventually you work up to like, 15, 20%.
So you obviously weren't passionate about this. Is not your life calling, working at Men's Warehouse. So how did that work for you? How were you good at it? Were you?
It was fun.
Natural.
It was fun because the thing is like I'm a hustler, man. So I can sell I can sell ice in the wintertime. So me slanging suits ain't nothing. I was slanging those suits, man. Shout out to Meech. I was out there. But I wasn't passionate about it, but what it gave me was for me to hone in on my people skills. Because literally I have to talk to people every day in and day out. What do they come in here, what do you need? Trying to figure out what do they need within 90 seconds so I can tell the people who support me, like, oh, this dude has a funeral, or oh, this dude just got a new job, or oh, this dude is just looking, like, let's put some styles together, right? Because it's usually like a team sport. I don't know how it is now, but it was usually like a team sport. So you have like a salesperson, and then you have like a I forgot what their title is, but like assistant to like the salesperson who will like put together your looks and things of that sort. So you're like, hey, dude is going to a funeral, the assistant will go grab like a bunch of shirts and ties and like, put the tie on there and things of that sort. So once you have a suit, you can lay it down and say, all right, well, these are your options for your funeral. And usually, in that 5 minutes that you're like trying on suits, you're asking questions, you're trying to get the most information you can get out this person, so you can then like relay it to the person so they can like use it against them. Like, well, like, sorry about your brother, I heard that, your brother's favorite color is red. So what we did was that with this gray suit, and let me tell you about this gray suit. This gray suit is versatile because you can wear it to this funeral, but you can also, put a pink shirt on in this bad boy and wear it to a funeral. But since you said your brother's favorite color was red, we put together a couple options of like this red shirt and this black tie, or like this black tie, or like this white shirt with this red shirt. This white shirt with this red tie, or like a pocket square, so you can, be able to, celebrate your brother during this time. Mm-hmm. And like, you go through that, you give the spiel, and like you shut up, and it's like, all right, so what are you taking? So it was like that type of process of like understanding like what sales meant, like hand-to-hand type of combat type of thing of like, all right, what do you do for a living? What do you enjoy? What are some things that you're going to do? Are you going to wear the suit more often? Like, what else are you doing? Like, what else is going on? Yada, 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 just so I can, use that information to try to sell them additional stuff.
Did you become like the alpha of the Men's Warehouse sales team? Were you the top guy or one of the top guys?
I was one of the top. Like, Men's Warehouse at the time had something called like Founders Club, when you sell over like $500,000 worth of material. Like, they could put your name on this plaque. And for a few years, I got very close to like making it. I was like maybe $10,000 or $20,000 short one year. But yeah, it was fun. Even though it wasn't my passion, it was fun because you get to meet interesting individuals, right? Like, I remember one guy who was like one of my clients, who like one of my regulars. He had just come in and like he'll just kick tires because he's like bored. He might buy a pair of jeans. And I remember he hit the lottery one day. And he came in, it's like, I'm gonna spend this with you. And I'm like, yes, because my week was looking a little low. He's like, man, I just hit the lottery for $1 million. Man, wow. I want a whole new wardrobe.
And you were his guy.
Yes. End up leaving the store like $5,000 with $5,000 worth of new gear. And I'm like, yes.
Because you would indulge him when he would come in and kick, knowing he wasn't going to buy anything. You would be there for him as if he was going to buy something. Yeah. So it paid off.
Yeah. Like, I met a car salesman there. We had a great relationship. He sold me a car. I sold him a suit. Like, just, some of the coaches from the UConn basketball team would come there. So it's just like interesting people you'll just meet, selling these suits to people. Right. And it really didn't mean anything to me, but I got a lot out of it because it was like just meeting folks, right? Especially I'm in Connecticut. So it's people from insurance. You got people who go back and forth to like New York, or people who like working Wall Street, but like are visiting family because they got family in Connecticut and things of that sort. So I met a variety of people there that like helped me become like the personal person that like people like and enjoy, because I spent a lot of time just talking to like a bunch of people trying to get information from them so I can sell them a suit, as well as other accessories that go with it.
Well, it's interesting too, because, you're good at it and you understand the culture, you learn the system, you learn how to do the skill very well. And so it turns into this kind of safe job that you have some sense of security in. And this is, I think a lot of people find themselves in this situation where it may not be their calling or their passion, but they're really good at something. And so they're really reluctant to move away from that because they get that steady paycheck and, why rock the boat if, or why fix it if it's not broken type of mentality. But obviously the universe had different plans for you because you came in one day and felt the sharp pain.
Yeah. And that's the thing, man. Like I came in and I felt the sharp pain in my hip, and I couldn't even put any weight on my foot. Like I couldn't put weight on my hip. And like that was crazy. And I remember like talking to one of the managers, like, yo, I gotta get up out of here. So I leave. The next day I was supposed to work. I think I was working like a 7-day sprint and come back still pain. He's like, and I remember him being like, don't come back until like you feel better, until your hip is all right, because like you're useless on the sales floor if you can't stand up. And so yeah, like I went to the doctor and got x-rays, and then
did you have insurance, or how did you find this doctor?
Yeah, I had insurance.
Okay.
Yeah, man, you gotta have them benefits, man,
Right. But this is somebody you didn't know before. This doctor was just some guy off a list.
Just from a list.
Okay.
And
this is the funniest part of the whole story, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I had insurance. Black folk have insurance, but don't even use it. I didn't even use it to go see not one doctor in that time span. They have the insurance, but go to the doctor. That led me to another doctor, which led me to the doctor who pretty much changed my life. And I go into the doctor's office, and he's a very short guy, very thick accent. And, and I'm having this conversation like, yeah, I can't put any weight on it. Like I played football, is it a previous football injury, yada, yada, yada. And he's like looking at me. He's like, well, Mr. Evans, like, I know why you're in pain. And I'm like, all right, like lay it on me. Like, what is it? Like, already, you ain't diagnosed me. You ain't felt on me or nothing. You ain't even look at my chart. Like, how you know why I'm in pain? And he's like, because you're fat. Like, what? Like, you're fat. And he like goes on this whole tangent of like, you got a pregnant woman's stomach, these titties, and like you need to start walking, you need to lose weight, you're gonna die, and like all these other things. And like hearing that brought me back to like some of the stuff that I heard throughout my childhood or just growing up. And I remember just saying sarcastically him, because I'm like, at this point I've checked out. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I remember like, all right, like, yeah, I'm gonna run a marathon. Like I'm gonna run a marathon. It's like, you run a marathon? Dude had the most biggest laugh ever. Like I told a joke. It was like, you run a marathon, like you gonna die. And it's like, what you mean I'm gonna die? Like, you gonna die. Like, you try it, you gonna die. And like I remember like we just kept having this argument, because I'll just say something snarky and he'll say something snarky back, or it's like I'll say something that's like, you just gonna die, to the point it's like, well, I'm gonna get the hell up out of here. So I just leave, like storm out the doctor's office, because we was almost to come to blows. Like I remember like talking to him with like my fist balled up, and I was like, oh, I need to get up out of here. So leave the doctor's office, and I'm driving home, and like I'm still ruminating on this conversation. Like, who the fuck this doctor tell me I'm gonna die if I run a marathon? Like, shit, I run a marathon a day. And then, like, as I said, that I'm driving past a Fleet Feet, which is a running shoe store. And like, I made a U-turn and went in a running shoe store. It's like, I need running shoes now. And I remember it's like them like being like, oh, okay, what are you doing? You gonna run a 5K or something? And I'm like, me be like, fuck no, I'm gonna run a marathon running today. It's like, you got a race or something? It's like, no, I'm running that bad boy today on a treadmill. Give me my shoes. And then, go through the whole process. I get the shoes. I go to the treadmill at my apartment complex, and like, there's these two guys on either side of me, like running on a treadmill, and like, they're running fast. So I'm like, oh, okay, like, I can do this shit too. So I look at the one guy, his treadmill speed is like at 10. I look at the other person, they're like 9 or 8 or something like that. And I think I turned mine to 7. I was like, I'm getting it in. I get on the treadmill, and like, my body just felt like it was rejecting the treadmill, and I'm breathing hard. I'm breathing heavy. I don't know if I'm running too fast. I don't know if I'm running too slow. And one of the things that happened was, like, I remember reaching out to like turn the button off, and like, I pulled back, like, I hesitated, like, nah, like, I need to run this marathon today. And then as soon as I hesitated, my feet left the treadmill and my shoulder hit the belt, man. Made this big ass noise. So like, everybody's looking at me, and I'm like getting up as fast as I can, like, just hoping like nobody like addresses me. And like, one of the guys that was next to me was like, hey bro, you all right? And I'm like, yeah, I just lost my balance. Like, grab everything and like just get out the fitness center. And as I was going home, I reached out to the doorknob, and I had this tattoo on my right wrist that says "No struggle, no progress." And as I was like reaching to the handle, and like, it came out, and I was like, I gotta, like, this gotta change. Like, I gotta make it a change. Like, he not gonna beat me. I'm gonna have to prove some people wrong. And that was the start, man. That was the start of the journey. As far as this, from what you see today, man. I went back out there the next day, and ran 30 seconds. Went out there the next day, ran a minute, and then I just kind of like just build on it. Like, each day, I'll just double like what I was doing, until somebody was like, hey man, you need to download Couch to 5K. And I download, I don't know, 5, 6 of them. And I just picked one, and I started to do Couch to 5K. And then like, it was hard. Like, I remember repeating a bunch of days, because like, no matter which one I did, I just felt like my body was like not adjusting to the treadmill or just running in general. So I remember just repeating a lot of days in Couch to 5K until I was able to like complete it. So like, let's say week 5, day 1, like, you run, I don't know, 10 minutes straight. I'm just making up something. Like, say you got to run 10 minutes straight. And I'm like, I can't run no damn 10 minutes straight. So like, I'll just keep repeating that day over and over and over until I was able to run for 10 minutes straight. And then I'll go to the next day. And like, sometimes it'll take me a week. Sometimes it'll take me like 2 weeks until I was able to like complete whatever that day was, in order to like feel like I'm able to move on.
What about your heel? I mean, your heel was in pain. How did that go away, or did you just tolerate the pain, or how did that work out?
So during that process, I did end up going to physical therapy. Mm-hmm. So during that process, the first couple of runs, like, I still was in pain. Like, that first run, I was in pain. I probably shouldn't did it. And it was my wife like, maybe you should probably go to physical therapy. And being like, yeah, you know what? I probably should. And I remember just walking in physical therapy one day and be like, hey, my hip hurts here. and like pointing to it. And it's like, you got insurance? And I was like, yep. And it's like, all right, let's work. I don't know what would happen if I didn't have insurance, but luckily I did. And during that whole process of me like running on the treadmill and like completing these days, like I'll go to physical therapy and, you know, say, hey, I ran for this long. You know, this is where it hurts at. You know, how can we get this fixed? And, you know, after a while, I don't know, maybe 3 months to 6 months, it eventually, the pain ended up easing up. But yeah, during that whole time where I was initially running or starting to run, I was going to physical therapy.
And the blog, 300 pounds and running, was that sort of like accountability for you? Like, did that help you stay committed, or were you going to stay committed anyway and you just wanted to share your experience?
I'm gonna tell you the truth. I started the blog because I felt like that's what people was doing during that time. I was like, you know what? Like, I remember talking to my partner and being like, hey, like, I think I'm gonna start a blog with this. Like, I think this is what people do. Like, they go on a journey and then they write about it and people watch it and like read it. Like, what's a blog? And I'm like, a website that people puts things on and like tell their story. And it's like, okay. So that's what I did. Like, I started the blog, and you know, I wasn't looking for like anybody to read it or anything like that, because like it was just something like I thought that's what people did. Like, people start a journey and then they write about it like on the internet, and you become one of the cool kids. I don't know, like, but you know, I did start that blog, and initially like nobody was reading it. It was just me, my significant other, maybe my sister, my mom, and a couple friends. And then like people started telling other people like, hey, Martinus got this blog here, and you know, he trying to run this marathon and like lose weight. Like, you should read it because, you know, it's interesting. Some of the things he say is funny, and like people just started to read it, right? And I remember going to this conference. There was this conference called Fit Blogging, where like a bunch of fitness people and like fitness bloggers like got together and like met up and just kicked it. And I remember going there and being so nervous, yo, because I was like, all right, like I only lost like 10 pounds. Like, I was like new into the journey, but like met a bunch of like lifelong friends from that conference just to be like, hey, I'm Martinus. Like, I'm trying to run this marathon. Like, I write this blog. Y'all should read it, type thing. And like met a bunch of people who like supported me and, you know, celebrated and like cheered me on, and people who were still cheering me on. Yeah.
And it took you, what, a year and a half to
do
the marathon, the Detroit Marathon?
Yeah. It was no joke. It was no joke.
Did you have a lot of people thinking you wouldn't be able to pull it off in your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. A lot of family members, a lot of friends, like, yo, what you doing is crazy. And like some of them just said, like, oh, you gonna pass out. Like, I remember the first time I told my mother, and my mother's she's a little older. And me being like, oh, I need to go run. Or like coming home for Thanksgiving and being like, all right, like I need to go run, Mom. She's like, oh, like how far are you running? And me being like 16 miles. 16 miles. Woo, boy, you gonna pass out? What you mean you're running 16 miles? And then like having to like explain it and tell her the story, like, yeah, you know, the doctor called me fat. I'm trying to train for this marathon. And how long is a marathon? 26 miles. What? How long is it supposed to take you? I don't know, 6-7 hours. You saying you gonna run 26 miles in 7 hours? Boy, you crazy. You ain't doing that, man. That's some white people shit. You better go on with that. Sit here and eat these greens and dress them. So like that was a lot of people response when I was training for that first marathon, especially, people of color. My family members like, what? You run? Like, how long was a marathon? And going through that whole experience, it was like another thing to like add fuel to the fire. Like, oh, I need to do this because like they don't understand how big this is. And me being like, well, or even this, I remember like telling them like the story of the marathon, right? Or like the legend, like, there's this war, the marathon, like the guy runs to like tell the news and like gets there and he dies. And it's like, you want to run something that the first time that
The first guy died.
Dies?
That's a good point, though. I mean, if you don't know anything about marathons and that's the story you hear to kind of sell you on it, that's like, oh, okay. The guy died. Okay.
Yeah. And me be like,
right.
no, like,
got it.
Cool. Like people do this, like I'm going to do this. And it's like, you going to die just like that first dude.
Hey, listen, man, I have a lot of, do you have a hard stop at in 15 minutes or can you go 10 minutes over?
Oh, we can keep going until whenever, man.
Okay.
I'll freed you up.
All right, cool. So I think, hearing up to this part of the story, you ran the marathon, right? You crossed the finish line, glorious moment, at least personally as an accomplishment. Mm-hmm. The story could really end there, right? Like that's where the credits could start rolling.
Yeah.
Because now you've created this new obsession with this activity that's obviously going to benefit your life in all the right ways. But cut to, year later, tragedy strikes again. I mean, you either stay embarrassed or you're in some kind of physical dilemma.
That's my life. January 2014. The marathon was October 2013. Literally months later, I get in a fucking car accident, man. I get in a car accident, totaled my car, hurt myself bad. Like, damn.
What happened? Were you distracted or?
So what was happening was like I was actually driving back to school, and what happened was there was a lot of traffic, and what happened was there was a school bus on the left side of me, and there was a little bit ahead, but like the light was red. So the school bus waved like this mail truck over. Mm-hmm. And I was coming down the street. And as I was driving, the light turned green. So I accelerated. So as I accelerated, the school bus had waved the mail truck over, and I T-boned the mail truck.
Okay. Wow. Was the guy okay or the woman okay?
Yeah, the person was okay.
But you're out of commission. You can't run. You can't do anything.
Can't do nothing for at least 7 to 8 months, man. Down bad. Gained back all the weight that I have lost during that time. I get depressed, get suicidal. Like, I get all of that stuff, man, because like that thing that I've been doing or like working on for like the past 18 months, almost like the past 2 years now, was like just taken away from me quickly. Like in a moment that I didn't even have any control over. Yeah, like I didn't even have no control over it. And it took me about, 7 or 8 months to get healed from that. And then get into another car accident. Fucking car rear ends me on the freeway. So get hurt again. So was out for another 6-7 months. And then after that, come back to it, start to feel good. And then I injure myself running. So it was like this hard, like good year and a half where car accident, hurt myself. And I remember being like something got to change, but like, this is the thing that I want to do. Like, I remember, in New England, when the fall hit, the colors change and the leaves are falling and things of that sort. And like, I remember driving and like people were just like, it was like a very scenic day. Like the leaves are changing colors, people are running, enjoying themselves. And I remember being like, man, I want that. And like, I'll do that, like, regardless, like what my situation is. Like, if I'm able to run again, I don't care like what weight I'm at. Like, I'm going to run. I'm not going to worry about weight loss. Like, I'm just going to do what I got to do to enjoy running, because I really do enjoy it. I like the person I was when I was running and training and things of that sort. And like, that was the promise that I made to myself.
So last I checked, Men's Warehouse doesn't have medical leave. So what were you doing for money while you were sitting around on the couch for months at a time recovering?
I was also in grad school during that time too. So like,
okay.
After Men's Warehouse, I went to grad school, had a TA-ship. So I just did that. I became like a full-time student in grad school during that time.
This is where you were working in the weight loss lab?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was going on there? I mean, like you said, you're a walking contradiction. So you're working in a weight loss lab, you're 400 pounds. And you said when your colleagues like pulled you up one day, it's like, is everything okay? Like, what? How are you reconciling all of that?
Man, it was tough during that time, because you got to remember. So let's clear it up. You had Men's Warehouse. I get injured. Mm-hmm. I started running. During that time, I get into grad school. So I'm working at grad school. I've lost that weight. So like, they reap the benefits of like, oh, Martinus has lost close to 100 pounds, yada, yada, yada. And then get into a car accident, gained all that weight back. And that's when they're like, yo, are you okay? Like, what's going on? I was like, fucking depressed, man. What you expect?
Were you straight up with them like that? Did you say, I'm just...
No. No. I just try to play it down like, yeah, I'm just going through some things, I really haven't been able to bounce back from a car accident, like things of that sort, I
was wondering, so you're working in this weight loss lab, mm-hmm. You're 400 pounds or somewhere around there. Was there anything you were learning about weight loss from working in the lab that was applicable to your personal situation?
Yes and no. So, yeah, I was able to get some of these trainings to, become a diabetes or certified diabetic, like type of teacher. Some of the other behavior change models, or just even learning that, right? Like, there's a model to behavior change, and me being like, oh crap, like, oh, like there's a model to this, like scientifically. I would say like those are some of the things that stuck with me. But like the actual thing of like, oh, this is how you're going to lose weight. I would say the main thing that really just stuck with me was journaling, or like keeping a log and being very honest about your struggles throughout that journey of like trying to lose weight. Like, those are the things I really learned. And then the main thing I learned, the main thing I learned is that there's no difference between any other diet scientifically. Like, if you line up all the diets together, like there's no difference in the amount of weight change that happens between any of the diets. So like, I remember when, that paper came out and being like, oh, like this is when paleo was big. This is when, when people like, oh, I'm gonna go on this diet and yada, yada, yada. And, to have that scientific article and be like, none of this shit really matters. Like, you are following something and like you are hating it. And guess what? You don't have to do it, because when you compare apples to apples to any other quote unquote diet or popular diet, Like there's no significant change in the amount of weight. And I think for me, you know, that's where that whole notion of like, you know, during that time, I'm also going through that notion of like, oh, like I want to run and I don't want to run like regardless of what weight I'm at, that I had that knowledge of to be like, oh, like this is all a scheme that the man is set up and able to make money, you know, from these people. And like me going back to my exercise science days and my other days in grad school to be like, well, there's so many other benefits to exercise. Like, why are we using exercise as this punishment for weight loss? Like, why are we just not using exercise as like the overall elixir for better health? So like, that's where like a combination of those type of things was happening, because like I had the knowledge myself, right? You know, I had the exercise science degree. You know, I ran this race. You know, of course I lost weight and I gained, you know, I gained it back. But when you look at the data of like, there's so many other benefits that come from just exercise that I was like, well, why am I even like boxing myself in to be the specific weight to please the other people around me? And if I'm happy of what I'm doing, like why I just won't just do more of that and like not focus on this scale? Cause like it was a lot of pressure, right? Like I'm getting on the scale, you know, I'm blogging about it. And like, you know, I remember this thing, I used to have this thing called Weight Loss Wednesday or like weigh in Wednesday. So like I used to get on the scale and like weigh myself every Wednesday. And like as I was like gaining this weight and all this other stuff, I'm like, why am I still doing this? Like, why am I putting myself like through this in order to like appease this model or thing that I think people want from me? And of course, like some people left and I was like, yo, I'm not really focused on weight loss anymore. I'm just trying to like run marathons and like really enjoy running and like being in my body. And like this is before I even knew the term like body, you know, body positivity or like self-acceptance and things of that sort. I remember just saying like, yo, I'm just trying to like enjoy the person that I am. And I really like Martinus when Martinus is active, like regardless if like he's losing weight, is he's gaining weight or whatever. Like I just enjoy myself better when I'm active. So like that's where some of the like clicking of, you know, some of the things of like models that I thought of, or like, you know, this is not a weight loss journey. And, you know, me just being like, you know, you can be active and for the sake of being active and not have to like do it for weight. And I know that's hard for people because when we think about like exercising and things of that sort, the main thing you know, associate with that with it is weight. Like, oh, you going for a run? Like, oh, you trying to get that weight off you, huh? Or you doing some sit-ups? Oh boy, you trying to get them abs, huh? Or you doing squats? Oh, okay. I see you trying to get them legs. But it's not like, yo, yeah, I'm running because I want better cardiovascular health. Like I'm running because like I enjoy like running races and like doing something hard and like completing it, or like people seeing me and like thinking, oh, like, oh, this is his first time, like you'll be okay, and trying to give me acknowledgement or like trying to give me encouragement. And then I pass them in the race. Like those are the things that like bring me the most joy when it comes to like being physically active.
How was your, at that time, right, 2015, 16, how was your idea of success starting to shift?
In 2000, when you say
just when you start running again after your accidents and you know you heal yourself and now you're becoming more and more proficient just as someone who knows they can finish a race, like what are you thinking about success? Is it about health at this point? Is it about making money? Is it about starting your own thing? Or what were you thinking?
No, at that time, truthfully, it was about running as many races as I can. Like that's literally what I was trying to do, is run as many races as I can. Any race that I signed up for or could afford, like I did it.
So you were working to run races,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Because like that was the fun thing, to be able to see my friends, in order to, to be able to see my friends, to be able to meet other people and have conversations with complete strangers about like running. And, I don't know if you ever ran a race before, but like there's this thing of like, it's the last stretch and you just look around and you see like who you with. And you look at that guy, you give him the head nod, like we gonna run this in together. And it's like, yeah, we're gonna run this in together. And like y'all just run it in together, and like y'all give each other a big high five or a hug, and like, good job, like you did that shit.
Kind of teased you earlier, you finishing the Detroit Marathon, in a conventional story would have been the end of the movie. I would say that you deciding to take a topless selfie and post it on Instagram would be a better end to the movie. And that's exactly what you did, man. You came full circle. Can you talk about what inspired that and how that worked out for you?
Yeah, man. That's actually a good question. Being the person I've been a person who's had boy boobs, man boobs for like all of my life, right? I've been this person who's been through all these adversities, people telling me I'm fat, people telling me I'm going to die, even from, the first grade of like the girl being like, you can't like me because your titties is bigger than mine. Being a plus size individual and being a Black man, it's one of the things of like being soft is like the worst thing you can be. Like being vulnerable, it's the worst thing that you can be or do, right? Showing that you have feelings and emotions, the worst thing ever. And I remember having a conversation with a friend and him being like, and I remember asking him like, like, what would you do if you wasn't afraid? Like, what would you do? Like, if you wasn't afraid? And he's like, man, like I would go to a pool with no shirt on. Like I would just get in the pool, like, and just be topless. And I was like, huh. And I was saying to myself, like out of all this stuff, like my guy here is afraid to get in the pool because because he got man boobs. That's like, man, he can't be the only other person. And I was like, well, shit, like this is just flesh. Like people have said worse things to me. I didn't say worse things to myself. Like what's a picture like with me topless? And then I took it. And then I was nervous. I was scared as hell to put it up there. But I put it up there.
And wait, did you take like 4 or 5 of them to try to find the best angle?
Yeah. I put the timer on, man. I put the timer on and I was just getting flicks, man. I was just getting flicks like poses and everything, man. I'm gonna get, and next thing you know, I got this camera roll full of like topless photos. I got this camera roll full of topless photos and be like, all right, like which one of these I'm gonna post? And type it up, tap up a caption on Instagram and like hesitate, like, like, should I do this? I was like, fuck it. And I did it. And I just put my phone down. I walked away. And that was the start. Like, that was the start of just me being like, all right, fellas, like we have to like get past this whole, like, what women have done for body positivity and body acceptance is amazing. Like, it's dope. Like they've gotten stores like Target and shit to like carry plus size clothing inside their stores. But when it comes to men, like we're still like a silent population in this. And there's a lot of men who still struggle with body image. And me doing that, I didn't know it was going to be a conduit for me, like doing other things. But it became that thing to start that conversation of to say like men too struggle with body image, and it's okay. Like we too struggle with body image, and like we don't have necessarily the best conversations about our bodies as well. and like something needs to be done about it. And, we can celebrate what we look like, or we can celebrate what our body does. And I just choose to celebrate what my body do. And then like that became like a gateway drug to me to just take random shirtless pics. I got a pic when I pose nude with like all my race medals on and things of that sort. Like I can do fun things like that and, cause an uproar or a conversation to be had.
I love it, man. And I think that's a great place to end. But I do want to reflect back, because you had so many moments where, like you say, public humiliation, right? But we can look at it kind of at a surface level as, yeah, you were humiliated, but we could also look at these moments as these were angels that were kind of brought into your life to help steer you in this direction to become this really inspiring person. I mean, I don't think you would be the person you are today if you hadn't gone through D calling you, titty boy, and, and the doctor with the guttural laugh, and, all the people who question you and teased you, and your mom, and pushing back on you. It's helped to refine and shape you into someone who can take the shirt off and do a full nude photo shoot. I mean, imagine if somebody came up to you in Men's Warehouse and said, Martinus, one day you're going to run, dozens of marathons. You are going to start a community with thousands of what do you call them again in your community? Goal crushers. And you're going to do a full nude photo shoot, with the body you have right now. And you are going to compete in the world champion of public speaking. I mean, what would you have thought if someone came into Men's Warehouse and told you all that? Would you believe them?
I would say that man tripping. He tripping. But it's one of the things now. It's just like my main goal now is to put this body and put myself in places where like people wouldn't expect me to be. So whether that's at a starting line of a marathon, whether that's me taking a new photo shoot with my running medals, whether that's me, I have goals and aspirations of doing a triathlon, rock climbing. I want to jump out of a plane. I want to do all these things that, you wouldn't necessarily see a body of my stature to be at, just to say that this shit can be done.
I love that. And I just want to acknowledge you for continuing to get back on your path and to keep showing up. And I want to thank you really for coming on to this podcast and being so transparent and vulnerable. I have a feeling that's how you are all the time anyway. But, for people who have shared their story so many times, to be able to share it again, like you're sharing it for the first time, is really appreciated. So I just want to thank you for that. And I hope to one day be able to cross paths with you, man, and dap you up and hug you and spend a little time with you in person.
Thank you. Likewise, man.